the channel here just a little bit ago. So I appreciate the people that are over here and spending the time with us today. And as always, for more sales training, for motivational content, and for leadership tips, make sure that you click that subscribe button and make sure you click the bell so you get notified both when I'm going live and when I'm uploading new content. So as I said, today's theme, it's the start of series 2 for the front, which is my podcast. The theme today is the keys to leadership success. Now, these are not in any particular order, and there's not one, I don't think, that outweighs others. So I would love to get some conversation going over here in the sidebar, and if you have questions, make sure you ask those. I don't have a really cool and slick question form like some people do. It's just me, so if you put them over there, then I will make sure to answer those. So first off, and like I said, I'm going to kind of rip through the 5 of these, and then I'm going to take the time to explain it. I have 5 keys to leadership success that I'm sharing tonight. So first off, we've got integrity, motivation, the ability to connect and have relationships, resilience, and then personal accountability. Now, each of these individual items I've done videos on in the past, and so I would appreciate, certainly I'll leave some links to those at the end of the video and for the replay. So whether you're watching live, that's fantastic. If you're watching later, then there's going to be something there for you as well. So let's talk about integrity first of all. When it comes to leadership, integrity and leadership, first off, integrity in general is honesty and having good morals. Now, when it comes to leadership, in my opinion, it's not just honesty, right? I've always viewed it as being in alignment with other people. And so what has to happen is, because it's so essential for a leader to have integrity, you have to be set up that you're in alignment with yourself. You have to have good morals. You have to have good follow through. That's going to come in one of the steps later. But you have to know, or your team has to know, that when you are put in a difficult situation, or when they're put in a difficult situation, that you're going to be fair, that you're going to weigh all of the things that come into play, and you're going to make a decision based on fact, not based on emotion or opinion. And so I think that's something that's so valuable when it comes to leadership. Is you cannot have someone that doesn't have integrity and is viewed as a good leader. Now, if you're here in America, I know I have some people watching from overseas right now. Look at our political situation. People are so frustrated and disgruntled because the political situation is such a mess, because there are a lot of people in politics that do not have integrity, right? They don't embody good morals. They're not in alignment with themselves, and they're certainly not in alignment with the people that put them into office. So that's why I wanted to talk about that one first. The very first thing is, integrity it's a very foundation of leadership. I'm gonna look over here because there's conversation going on. Your boy Neil, yeah, I saw that earlier. Ryan, thank you so much. I haven't seen you in a little bit, but primarily because I haven't been live. Yeah, I was on a little hiatus. So here we go with series 2 of the Front podcast. And hey, Mike Cola, good to see you over here, man. I appreciate you coming by. And Urban Explorer, can I have a channel review? No, because I don't do channel reviews. I talk leadership, man. Ryan shares in the sidebar, he says, government is actually a reflection of society. I think to a point, I think there are, I don't know that it's always a reflection of society, and not to get way off in the weeds. I think that it's a reflection of what's promised, right? Because there's a lot of politicians and government that say, yeah, if I get elected, I'm going to go and do this, and everyone's going to get a free unicorn. And then it doesn't happen, right? But the reason that it doesn't happen is because they don't have that integrity to follow through and be honest with people. So, hey, Chris, good to see you, man. Thank you for coming over and watching. Good conversation Chris Thomas and I are having over on LinkedIn. If you're not connected with Chris Thomas, You should be, because the guy is an innovator. He's on the online and live music scene, and so he's just really awesome individual. Connected with him a few years ago, and great guy. So if you're not connected with him, get hooked up with him on LinkedIn. So moving on to my next point, my next characteristic and trait of leadership here, it's motivation. People that are good leaders have to be motivated. They have to be self-motivated, and they have to be able to motivate others. See, it's one of those things that often people will get into leadership or management roles, and I've said this before, they'll get set up and they lose their motivation to succeed. They lose that fire and that passion because they feel like, well, hey, I've made it, right? I made it to the top of the mountain, so here I am. And then what happens is their position and their respect and their leadership quickly deteriorates. Motivation at its core, and here's one of the reasons I believe why. Motivation, I'm stumbling over some of my words. Motivation at its core is need. It's either when you need something or you want something so badly that you will put in all the actions and the effort and the behaviors that are necessary to achieve that. And so what often happens, people that really say, well, I want a management role, I want a leadership role, I want to get in there. They want it so badly that they put in those necessary actions to get to that point. Well, then once they've made it there, a lot of times there's not good training for people that are managers and leaders. Once they get to the top level of the mountain, often people are like, well, is this all there is? Like, what else is there? And they don't have good connection, good mentors to be able to continue to grow them in different areas once they have made it there, once we've made it there, right? And so when you lose that need, often you lose that motivation. And so it's so important to make sure that once you make it to different levels, and this is primarily a business podcast, right? So as you're making it to different levels in business, it's so important to find out what's next. What is the next thing that I can achieve? What is the next thing that I need to learn or go after? If any of you are watching this and you have not read or listened to on Audible, David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, really, really inspiring book. And one of the things he says there at the very end is how he's constantly looking for the next thing. Like if he was injured and couldn't run, he says, well, that's fine. Then I would find something else to fill the time. What else could I excel in? So like for you in business, if you're in a position that you say, okay, well, I've learned everything that I can in this one area, then what else can I learn in a totally different area? If I'm a sales manager, what can I learn in accounting? If I'm already an accountant, how can I deepen my knowledge of finance, right? And so when you find these things to chase and you find a new need, then you'll find new actions to help you accomplish that need. So a few more comments. Says, go into government wanting to reflect society, and then the machine takes over. Neil, that's a very valid point from our last bit of discussion there. He said goes into government, but people go into politics because I think they genuinely want to make a change. They want to make a difference for people. And then what he's saying is the machine takes over, right? You get absorbed, you get assimilated into what's already there. It takes a lot of fortitude to be a politician and still maintain, or be in any sort of office like that and maintain who you are. Chris over here, Pages and Poets, says the guy that was hired to be the Wright brothers to flight quit the day after they discovered it. He didn't try to improve upon it or help it grow. He just wanted to be the first there. Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, okay, hey, we're going to be the first ones to fly. Glenn Curtis was the guy's name. And we're going to be the first ones to have manned flight. Forgive me, I keep looking over so that I can read the comments over here because I really want to include people because there's good stuff going on. And once they achieved it, it's like, okay, cool. Let's pack up and go home. Good talk. Thanks, guys. Ryan says, I noticed that people today need three things: autonomy, recognition, and influence. Leaders understand this and seek to let people have these things. The good leaders understand that. Oftentimes we still have many people that I think are in leadership roles that still want to micromanage, right? They still get into that position and they say, well, you have to follow me and you have to execute on these individual principles and these things that I'm asking you to do because I've been appointed the leader, right? You're not a king. You're not a sovereign leader. You're somebody that's worked your tail off to get into that position. And though I don't have it on my list, it's one of those things that you do need to stay humble. You need to maintain some humility. The third item on my list, while I'm talking about keys to leadership success, is the ability to connect and build relationships. And technology is fantastic. Technology allows us all to connect all over the world, right? It allows us to get a message out. It allows us to be friends and connect with family members that are literally anywhere else. But there is not a replacement for human connection. And I'm going to give a shout out here right now. I connected with Dan Courier, who is putting on a conference, and I don't know the specifics and the dates and such, but he's putting on a conference. And to me, kind of behind the scenes, it's one of those things that inspired me. It's called People of Video. And I think it's in Albany, New York. And his philosophy behind it is, yeah, the technology is awesome, but behind all of that, there is people. People are what make the difference. You have to have people. I was talking even with our kickboxing instructor this morning, and we were talking about, sales and marketing and so forth. And I said at the end of the day, and we do this in our BDC in automotive, I end up and I have really good people. I have really good sales and call center people that work for me. And oftentimes we get absorbed into just there's a name and a number behind the screen, right? Or if you're a YouTube person, right, it's the number of subscribers. And you lose the connection with the humanity. You lose the connection with the individual, because you got to remember that on the other side of every one subscriber number, on the other side of every lead form that's filled out in the automotive industry, it's not just a collection of black and white text. It's an actual human being that's wanting to gain something from you. And see, leaders know that, and they maintain that ability to connect with people. Energy, warmth, understanding. When we connect with other people and we're able to provide them value, it makes them feel better about us. It makes them feel better about themselves. It makes us feel better about ourselves. Right? I promise you. And even the people that are the most introverted and are like, hey, I don't need all that. I need some time and space to myself. At some point, you do need some human connection. Solitary confinement is a prime example, right? People that get put into solitary. I watched a video the other day, and they did an experiment with 5 people from kind of different walks of life, different verticals, and they put each of them in solitary. And because of all the technology and all the things that are coming out, we constantly have a phone at our side. And because of all the things that we're engaged in every moment of every day in our lives, there was one person, like, as soon as they got in there, they couldn't go 4 hours, right? I think it was a female, and she freaked out. She's like, I can't do this, right? 4 hours, because we're so overly sensitized, right? That when she was desensitized to stuff, like they took everything away, it was like, oh my gosh, this is an absolute disaster. Didn't know how to handle it. So here's kind of in closing on this point, on this thought here. The ability to connect in relationships, really good leaders understand that they have to take people with them on the journey. People cannot, you cannot accomplish most tasks by yourself. And if you don't have the ability to connect, you're not connected with your people, they don't feel that you care about them, they aren't going to want to go with you on the journey. And especially, they may want to go with you on the journey when it's like a flat foot race for a mile long, but they are probably not going to want to stay with you on the journey for any length of time, and certainly not if things get difficult. So you want to make sure that one way that you can ask more of people is by asking more of yourself, to be able to connect with them and make sure that they understand what the mission is, and that you're taking them along with you. They're going with you. You're walking side by side for that. You may be the appointed leader, but when you get side by side with someone and you can walk along and talk, and then that leads back to your human connection, and you stay motivated because you guys have common goals, or gals have common goals, like, that's so important. The next item on my list that I shared, resilience, right? Resilience is the ability of something to return to its original form. Resilience is the ability to recover from like illness. It's the ability to recover from depression. It's the ability to overcome adversity. Resilience, see, people that are not resilient don't make good leaders, because really good leaders are willing to take chances and they're willing to fail. And if you're not resilient at what it is, if you're not able to return to that original form, if you're not able to keep going, then at the first sign of failure, you fail and you stop. And then guess what happens? Your team fails and they stop. And so it is so important that you are able to go until, right? I've got some notes over here that I'm looking at. It says when a leader loses or when the team loses, like, because if the team loses, the leader loses, right? There has to be an attitude of until. Like, we're going to keep going until we complete the task, or we're going to keep going until it's time to change the plan, right? Don't fall so in love with your plan. Don't get so short-sighted short-sighted that you can't see that you may need to change the approach. So that's my fourth item on the list, is resilience. And again, just as a reminder, because this currently is live, if you've got any questions, if you have any comments on leadership, I appreciate the people that are watching. And whether you're watching live or watching later, again, thank you so much. One other quick reminder, make sure that you do subscribe and click the bell so that you get notified when I'm either going live or I'm uploading new content, because I'd love to continue to connect with you. This is something I'm going to get back to doing, a live stream like this, probably maybe once a week, maybe once every other week, something in that time frame. And then I am uploading a video on leadership trainings, motivation, and that kind of theme about once a week. So make sure that you're coming back and checking out. Chris, Pages and Poets over here says, winners have failed more. The people that are the most successful have failed more than the people that were not willing to make the attempt. Right? They failed. They were resilient. Said, "Well, I'm going to try until." Here's a really good analogy. I think this is one that I've stayed connected to for a really long time that I enjoy. Anthony Robbins, who I'm a huge fan of, Tony Robbins. He has an analogy. He says, "Look, how long do you give the average baby to learn how to walk?" And he asked the audience that, and everybody is kind of they're like, "Well, gosh, I don't know, a year and a half." Oh gosh, my children watched, or my children walked at 9 months, or whatever the number is, right? And the point is, he says, yeah, well, barring any sort of disability or anything, like you keep pushing your child, you keep going until they walk. Like, you're never going to say, you know what, the walking thing's not for you. And so often, even, we end up in positions where we have maybe one of our children has a genuine physical disability. And even then, look at all of those things that those people are able to accomplish, that people in that position are able to accomplish, because their parents believe until. So that's what resilience is. You just try until. Ryan shares over here, he says, I heard a great quote today: if you want more success, fail twice as often. Try, didn't work, try, didn't work, try, guess what? It might work. So the last one on my list, and I just did a video on this about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, personal accountability. Leaders are personally accountable. In my opinion, accountability at its core is personal. It's accountability in general is doing what you say you'll do, right? If you say you're going to do something, you follow through with it. That's what accountability is. Accountability, I was talking with some friends of mine Sunday evening, and we were having a conversation, and many in our group, we were talking about accountability. And accountability is important to leaders. Accountability is important to people, right? But in this sense, I'm talking about how it's important to leaders. And the reason it's so important is because good leaders that maintain a high level of a personal accountability, that accountability is visible, right? You tell other people what you're going to do. You tell people the goals that you're going after. You tell people what goals your team is going to accomplish. And then the accountability piece is the results. Did you do it or did you not? It doesn't mean that it's just nonstop winning. It doesn't work that way. I wish it did. I mean, for my career, I really wish that nonstop winning was a thing. But that goes back then to resilience, right? The personal accountability. Hey, I told you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go after it until, or if I'm not able to, maybe I find I'm not able to achieve that. So guess what? Then I need to roll over and I need to execute on a new plan. And I need to tell people about it so that I'm accountable to myself and I'm accountable to other people. So I lost my train of thought, man, for a second, because I was looking over here and there's some really good comments on the side where, you, as he was saying, like you go and as long as it takes, right? Maintaining the conversation on resilience and accountability. So understand this, kind of in closing on this last piece. Accountability, when we're talking about that accountability is the results, accountability happens after the fact. You have an opportunity when it comes to accountability, when I'm saying it happens after the fact, you own it. You own whatever the outcome is. If you hit it and you knocked it out of the park, fantastic. If you didn't, then you have to own it and you have to reassess and you got to go after it. But the accountability piece, when I say it happens after the fact, it's acknowledging, am I going to accept that win or loss, or am I going to make the excuse? Am I going to pay it forward to the other people that participated in my winnings, or am I going to take all the glory? You have to be careful on that last one. So let me ask you, as we're kind of wrapping up here, and we do have several people that are watching live, I really appreciate you. What are some other ways that you see? What are some other characteristics or traits or keys in leadership that you see people that are good leaders, the things that they're executing on? And I'm going to read a few more comments. It says, one of the biggest messages I always walk away from these, follow through, really strikes a chord. For me, follow through, and I absolutely agree with you, Chris. Follow through is, there's a lot that's lost on it in today's microwave society, and it's not even a microwave society anymore. I think we called it a microwave society in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Now it's like instant, right? If our phone doesn't load in 3 seconds, we're like off, we're out, we're on to the next website. And so I think because of this instant society that we live in, the follow through piece, like sometimes follow through takes time, and it takes doing what you say you will. It takes, if I say that I'm going to call somebody back, then it's my responsibility to do that, or send them a message and say, hey, I'm not able to get to that, and explain it and say, you know, there's so much value in the communication of accountability as well. So that's my whole message for today. I really appreciate everybody that sat in. I think I'm coming up right on half an hour. I try and keep these to about 30 minutes. And if you would do me a favor, I would really appreciate if you like the stream, share the stream out. I am going to go ahead and probably edit this one a little bit. I may leave the link live for the future on this one so that it's ongoing content. Those 5 keys to leadership success, I'm going to run back through them just real quickly here. For anybody that might have been taking notes, it's integrity, motivation, ability to connect and build relationships, resilience, and then personal accountability. So thank you again for taking the time to tune in with me today. I'm going to, I put this on my podcast as well. Make sure if you did not already that you please subscribe and click that bell button so that you get notified on new videos. And then also, if you're watching the replay, I'm going to make sure and I'm going to leave a link right up here to a list of leadership behaviors. I have a playlist of leadership behaviors, and that will help you to continue your journey on leadership and help you to grow even more. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again really soon.